Action. The power that you and I possess is unlimited. When we realize what we have possession of and put it to use, we will be able to accomplish the amazing impossible. Most of us only use 10% of our God-given potential. We are happy living in the survival mode. It is not until we are faced with a crisis that we tap into the other 90%. What will happen if we relied on that other 90% more often? Most of our potential lies dormant in us because, 1, we fail to realize that we are blessed beyond measure. 2, we succumb to the effects of heartbrokenness and underappreciativeness for far too long. 3, fear, the four-letter word described as false evidence appearing real, block us from becoming the best we can be. How many times have you said no to your potential? How many times have you stared at a great opportunity in the face and said no to yourself because of your past defeats? How many times has someone told you that you can't do something or can't do all you were created to be? Most of us carry around too much junk in the trunk. The things that you and others call impossible will be yours for the taking if you eliminate that junk and choose to act. Action is a doing word. Once you acquire this habit, others have no choice but to step aside for you. You are now a crusader, and the world always seems to make way for the person who knows where he or she is going. Look at the fire engine, mission-bound, speeding up the street. I reside in Los Angeles, California, and as a rule, when a fire engine is in pursuit, everything gives way. Despite how desperate the drivers of those now parked vehicles are towards arriving at their destinations. Also, I've witnessed dogs barking at these passionate, purpose-driven pursuits of a fire engine. Never once have I seen any fire engine stop to address them. Could these dogs be saying in their language, "You are going too fast and making too much noise. No one can keep up, not even me. You need to slow down. Don't you hear me? I am barking for you to slow down. Are you deaf?" How about those people who are content to consistently sit on their good intentions? Sitting there is one of the major causes of failure. Lackadaisically, they let opportunities pass them by. They lack the zest, the vim, the vitality, as well as the ability to swim upstream and associate with others who are content with floating downstream. They operate their lives like a train without a caboose, and then when others around them are moving ahead, they become envious, wishing that those action-driven individuals never succeed at their chosen vocation. Failure to act, a fear epidemic paralyzing many would-be champions in our world, has a simple cure. It's action. The people who act on their ideas are not only successful, but in most cases amass great fortunes. Some people watch things happen. Some people like to wait for things to happen. Some people like to wonder what will happen. Some people don't care what happens, but the action-driven person delights in making things happen. Give a task to a busy person, and they finish it speedily. Watch them go to work on it, and you will notice how their actions exude confidence. He's bound to succeed. On the other hand, many are known to wait for their ship to come in when it has not even left the dock. "Oh, if I could get lucky like you, the go-getter, the wine. Oh, if I only had your lucky breaks." Give your lucky breaks to them and watch them crumble. Why? Your shoes are not only uncomfortable, but too big for them. They have not seen the sacrifices you have made as you keep disciplining your disappointments on a daily basis in order to gain the stripes on your lapel or the gold medal around your neck. What actions are you hesitant to take, knowing that by acting your life will turn around for the better? What if the life you've always envisioned could be heading your way? If you were to step out and meet it halfway? What actions are holding you back? Good things come to those who are filled with passion and purpose and launch out into the deep, not to those who sit back and wait. My mom was such a philosopher. It seems like she always had the right things to say. Additionally, she loved painting pictures for all 9 of us by telling us stories. I recall this one she told whenever we lagged behind upon completing our chores. I have used it extensively because I feel its application. She told us about Harriet from our village who would go daily down to the river to wash clothes. Harriet would sit on the huge river stone with the soap and laundry next to her and pray to God that he would help her wash the daily increasing load of clothes. What help never came. She did not even have the courage to start. Harriet had faith, but was not willing to do the work. Consequently, help never came. About faith, it is said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith without works is dead. A few years ago, I was at a business conference on the East Coast and heard the keynote speaker share this story. A very wealthy man bought a huge ranch in Arizona and invited some of his closer associates to see it. After touring the 1,500 acres of mountains, rivers, and grasslands, he took everybody to the house. The house was as spectacular as the scenery. In the back of the house was the largest swimming pool they had ever seen. However, it was filled with alligators. The owner explained, "I value courage more than anything. It is what made me a billionaire. I value courage so much that if anyone has the courage to jump into that pool and swim to the other side, I will give them whatever they want, my land, my house, my money, anything." Of course, everybody laughed at the challenge and turned to follow the owner into the house for lunch. Suddenly, they heard a splash. Turning around, they saw a guy splashing and thrashing into the water, swimming for his life as the alligators swarmed after him. After several death-defying seconds, the man made it unharmed to the other side. The rich billionaire was amazed, but he stuck to his promise. He said, "Young man of courage, you can have whatever you want, house, money, land, etc. Whatever you want is yours." The swimmer, breathing heavily, looked up and said, "I just want to know who pushed me in the pool." Some examples of being pushed into action include the story of one Alabama seamstress. One December in 1955, a seamstress for a department store in Montgomery, Alabama, boarded a city bus en route to her home. It was during the Civil Rights Revolution when blacks were only legally permitted to sit at the back of a bus. She walked past the whites-only section towards the middle of the bus. With frequent stops, the bus filled up. The driver, a white man, noticed that more people of his race were still boarding. So he ordered the people in the seamstress Rosa Parks row to move to the back of the bus. Apparently, they gave him a deaf ear. Frustrated, he barked at those black passengers. They all moved, except for Rosa Parks. Consequently, she was arrested and sent to jail after the sheriff was called to the scene. Parks' passionate act fueled the already simmering civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr. at the helm. Today in America, not only are blacks and other minorities permitted to vote, but now a black man sits in the White House as our commander-in-chief. Being pushed seems to bring out the best in people, enabling them to use more of their potential. Less than a decade ago, I was driven to write. I never envisioned myself being a writer. Frankly, it was the furthest vacation from my mind. In 1994, I attended Lee Strasberg Institute in New York and subsequently launched my acting career. I instantly fell in love with the craft. After some off-Broadway engagements, including performances at the famous Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, I brought my skill to Hollywood in 1996. A few years later, several feature films as well as several national TV commercials were under my belt. As I stated in my book, When the Dust Settles, I'm Still Standing, a true Hollywood story, I was forced into writing, or to put it subtly, it became a blessing in disguise. While operating a modeling agency and almost going bankrupt in 2004, I stumbled into a 1970s classic film which I badly wanted to remake. At the time, I had no prior experience in filmmaking except for my previous time spent on movie sets. Nonetheless, I was determined to succeed. I knew exactly how I wanted to remake this project. For the next 3 weeks, I made numerous phone calls to find out who held the rights to my intended pet project. When I finally made contact with the studio, a woman answered the phone and told me they were not interested in selling the rights to a third party. That statement didn't sit well with me. You see, in a nutshell, my plane had already taken off. The fasten your seatbelt signs were already extinguished, and the hostess was serving the beverage of the day. Flying was inevitable. I composed myself, contacted a writer friend whose script was recently optioned by a major studio, and asked him to assist me in writing my script. He did one of the best things a person can do for another. Instead of giving me a fish, he showed me how to fish by sending me guidelines for writing a screenplay. I got busy writing. My mantra echoed for several months. I will write my own. I will show them. They'll be begging me for my work someday. My imaginary airplane was swiftly gaining altitude. I knew if it was going to be, it was up to me. I knew where I came from and where I wanted to go. What I touched had to turn to gold. I dared the ones who tried to get in my way. After my debut, writing screenplays, I experienced a supernatural, divine encounter. One day, while sitting at my desktop computer pondering my next steps, I was led to study the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all that he represented. He had always been my hero. I stared at his picture intermittently for several days. At this point, I always desired to write a book. I felt that I possessed very unique stories to share. So on January 21, 2007, after having a heart-to-heart and a mind-to-mind over matter interlude with my hero, hidden guide, and mentor, I took that leap of faith. Reflecting on what Dr. King stood for, I reasoned, if only I could do 20% of what he stood for, I would be very happy. So I committed my time, skill, and resources to writing consistently. In spring of 2007, my first book, The 5 Steps to Changing Your Life, was written. With writing skills well below par, writing as a one-finger typist, I completed the first draft of that book in 1 week. I felt as if a dam of inspiration had flooded through my mind, and I paced back and forth from my computer to my book library. I perused through my book collection, including The Magic of Thinking Big, a book I read for the first time over 20 years ago. In those books, I found the necessary highlighted quotes, which I needed to insert into my manuscript. While the editor worked on that book, I created the outline for the next book I was writing. It turned out to be the byproduct of a great project. Writing my first book did not only cause me to tap into my unused potential, but brought me off the sidelines and into the game. I decided that no one was going to outwork me. Since I had never taken a typing class, I was not adept at using the computer's keyboard. My word per minute was about a few words a minute. Someone once said, when the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. In the summer of 2008, I wrote, published, and released Spread Some Love Relationships 101. It is my belief that if my thoughts can produce it, it can be written. In hindsight, I was pushed into writing. I was heaved into action towards my vocation, which was a blessing in disguise, after being denied access to that movie's rights. The company probably meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Therefore, deciding to swim upstream was non-negotiable. In the words of the poet Robert Frost, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep." Champions are action-driven. Stroke after stroke, play after play, day after day, even if it seems like nothing is happening. Like a duck's feet moving underwater, they are mentally and physically working on their game. You may never see it on the outside, but it happens on the inside. The roots of a giant oak tree are submerged deep below the ground. Yes, that massive oak which withstands the wind and rain. It is as strong above the ground as it is below the ground. Its roots submerged as a result of simple mundane action in order to support that winning tree.